Good. And Ceann Comhairle, I'd also like to add to the contribution there to Minister or Deputy Naughton. We're also conveying our best wishes, and indeed you're in our thoughts and prayers as well, as are your family. Minister, last week I was privileged to facilitate an AV room briefing from parents and educators associated with the Therapists in Special Schools National Alliance. We had a very encouraging level of cross-party attendance, and that was very welcome, because I, for one, have absolutely no interest in this issue being used as a political football. Everybody must work together, of all parties and none, to get this matter rectified. I accept that many people, including Minister Rabbitte and others, are acting in good faith. But the fact remains that the special school system has been forced to offer care and education in a state of near-permanent crisis for many years now. My sole interest here today is in identifying possible solutions and moving forward, so that these special and beautiful children are no longer subjected to ongoing and highly distressing levels of regression and deterioration. Last week we heard the heartbreaking stories of many people, many parents included, at the briefing, where they were saying that their children had gone into residential care, been forced into residential care because the supports weren't there. And that is just a national scandal. We have to do better. I'm aware that the HSE Chief Executive, Mr Bernard Gloucester, has written to parents and schools in my own constituency regarding the ongoing work of progressing the Disabilities Roadmap and national policy. I am also aware that a communication was issued to each CHO area in February last, confirming that additional therapy capacity available from other organisations could be commissioned to provide supports to children and families under the governance of the CDNT. This included doing so in respect of provision to children in special schools. This followed on from an initiative in Wexford where the local HSE service used time-related savings from vacant CDNT posts to commission private therapy hours for a specific special school. However, as one parent put it to me, despite this communication from the HSE over 8 months ago, our children are still being left to deteriorate without vital therapeutic supports. And not only this, but essential therapeutic equipment is also lying idle for years because staff have not been trained to use it. Minister, clearly something is very broken with this whole system. And we do need to look at, in terms of solutions, we know that the Regional Executive Officer for Ireland South made the decision to fund the private sector, and the right decision, to fund the private sector in St Killian's Special School in Cork for one term. This has to be done, and other REOs need to be able to make that same decision so that they can help the special schools.
Thank you, Deputy.
Gareth Margaret.
Minister.
Thank you, Deputy, for raising this really important issue, and you correctly state that this is one that transcends, politics, and all of us want to see the very best of education for all our children, but in particular that the supports are in place for those kids with additional needs and with special needs. And we have made significant strides in that period, and I'm going to come directly to your question as well, but I just want to put it in context. I remember when I came into this Dáil first in 2007, the level of special schools back then, the level of special needs assistants, the level of therapists, all of that, like, we've moved on substantially, but we have a growing population, and thankfully we have a better diagnosis as well and early identification of special needs for kids. So more supports are needed. But if I look at what has been done in education itself and how that needs to be complemented by health, more than a quarter of the entire education budget is being spent on special education, and rightly so. There are now over 28,000 children being supported in special schools and classes. Since 2020, almost 1,700 new special classes in mainstream schools, 11 new special schools, 7,600 more special education teachers. And Budget 2025, which we've just passed, will add a further 768 special education teachers. more than 4,000 special needs assistants since 2020, and again Budget 2025 will fund a further 1,600 special needs assistants, bringing the nationwide total to 23,000. So, you know, under Budget 2025, nearly €2.9 billion has been allocated to provide additional teaching and care supports for children with special needs. But I'm going to agree with you on this, Deputy. All of us have cases and families coming to us in our own constituencies, that particularly in the area of early diagnosis and providing the additional supports that have been very difficult for parents and very difficult for kids. And we've made a lot of progress, but there's still more to be done. And I know that, you know, we've looked at providing additional therapists. 85 people have been recruited in these additional posts already. We went further in August with the government decision to introduce that pilot programme that you referred to, where therapists will provide therapy supports to children in special schools. That was piloted across 16 schools in Cork and Dublin. The first 6 have been identified. But unfortunately, there has been some delay in getting therapists on site, and there's been some IR issues there, which I really, really hope will be surmounted. And agreement could not be found with regard to the redeployment of any current CDNT staff member to the pilot, and that's regrettable. Undoubtedly progress has been made, but I agree with you on this, Deputy Nolan. There really needs a sharp focus on this, and I would ask all of the stakeholders. So if you look at the pilot programme and the difficulty we've had in redeployment for industrial relations issues, like really people should put the care of the kids first, and we can work out any other issues after that. But I can assure you that it's an area that I think all of us as TDs fully understand, because I'm dealing with parents and kids in my area that have really good outcomes, excellent special schools, excellent SNAs. I want to thank them for the work they've done. But there are other families that are waiting far too long to get the supports that they need.
Deputy Nolan.
Minister, I thank you for your reply, and certainly, yes, everybody needs to work together, but it is an emergency situation here. We need private therapists brought in quickly into our special schools, and the only way that that can be done is if the REOs can be all directed to provide the funding, that they can provide funding to allow for these private therapists in the meantime, because the children are really finding it difficult. It's extremely challenging for the teachers. I visited a special school in my own constituency just during the week, the Offaly School of Special Education, and you know, I heard firsthand from those teachers, those SNAs, they're doing fantastic work, but they need supports, and they need supports quickly. And as a teacher, a former teacher myself for 12 years, I experienced situations where I was constantly fighting for resources for children in the school. I saw that clearly. And the parents are becoming frustrated and battling all of the time. And my question to government is as follows. Will government commit to writing to and directing all regional executive officers to renew their focus on these issues? And that is private therapists and the funding of private therapists. And will you commit to initiating reform of the Children's Disability Network Teams model, especially those aspects that are actually making the problems worse for schools like the Offaly School of Special Education and Colby Special School in Portlaoise? That's my question, Minister.
Thank you. Minister, please.
I'll certainly take every point that you've raised here and raise it with the Minister for Education, the Minister for Health. We discuss this at Cabinet regularly. I can tell you in relation to the to private assessment of needs, so being able to utilise the private sector to work through the private assessments. As you know, we've allocated just under 7 million in May of this year, and that will fund about 2,500 private assessment of needs for long-waiting families. Families have waited too long. I want to be really frank with you on that. Your question in relation to getting a commitment that all the regional leads would be written to again, I agree with you. That should happen. But let's be clear, that should be happening anyway. I want to be really clear on that. That should be happening now anyway. And I would ask all of those people who do magnificent work. I was in Portmarnock in my own area 2 weeks ago, met a number of SNAs there, and the work that they do is incredible, but the pressure they're under too. They need the support that's there. We have the resource to do, we've upped the resources. I'm not going to go through all the figures with you again, okay, because we have to recognise that where something isn't working as it should, that needs to be said too.
Thank you, Minister.
Lots of kids are being helped, more need to be. And I will commit to you, and I'll talk directly again to Minister Foley, who has been a really strong advocate in this space as well, and indeed to Minister Donnelly, to make sure that there remains, and Minister Rabbit too, but that there remains a specific, clear focus on that. And I think your suggestion in relation to further correspondence to the regional leads is a good one, and I will certainly pursue that.
Very good. That